Huh. It looks like Class of 3000 is making its way into the internet zeitgeist. So why not talk about it here on Media Mementos? I could easily just stand here and tell you all how this has been one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows ever since it first came out, but I think that sentence kinda covers it, you know? Instead, I'd like to get into the complete history of Class of 3000 and tell you how this forgotten, albeit well-loved show came to be. Firstly, it's important to note that Class of 3000 was created by two people, Outcast member Andre Benjamin and television developer Thomas Lynch. Lynch is known for a lot of classic children's programming like Romeo or The Secret World of Alex Mack. I guess he's primarily a Nickelodeon guy, which makes it kinda weird that this show was on Cartoon Network. Lynch decided that he wanted his next project to be an animated show. So he met with Mike Lazo, one of the heads of Cartoon Network, at their headquarters in Atlanta, and the two got to work. Lazo basically told Lynch that they would greenlight whatever he suggested. As long as it was an inventive idea that had a future, they would be more than happy to commission a pilot. During this discussion, they also found out that they were both big fans of Outkast, particularly Andre Benjamin, or, as he's known on stage, Andre 3000. They came up with the idea to make his song, The Love Below, into an adult animated series that would premiere on Adult Swim. So they met with Benjamin, pitched the idea, and he promptly said, no. He didn't want The Love Below to be changed or adapted into any way, and he wanted it to be a standalone thing. However, he was still interested in collaborating with them on a certain type of project. Benjamin pitched the idea of a show based around his childhood growing up in Atlanta. Lazo and Lynch thought this was a great idea, so they shook hands and the deal was formed. Of course, this was after Benjamin made them promise that the show would take place in Atlanta, and to their credit, they stuck to that promise. And right from the get-go, Benjamin proved that he would be an integral force in developing the show. See, he didn't want his reputation to get ruined by being attached to a substandard project. He's seen a lot of those celebrity-based cartoon shows that came out around the 1970s, and yeah, I can understand why he was afraid. He wanted this new show, now called Class of 3000, to be one of the very few celebrity-based cartoons that would be of some sort of quality. And of course, this one would also be distinct given that it was aimed towards adults. Until it wasn't. See, as time went on, the crew realized that this would be better suited for Cartoon Network's prime time rather than Adult Swim. To adjust for this change in demographic, the show took on a new style that was coined, quote, the whimsical version of Peanuts. When it came to developing the main characters, Andre Benjamin used heavy inspiration from the kids that he went to school with back in Atlanta. This was a school for rich kids, kids of politicians, and any other kid that would fit in a very similar category. The main characters would become Little D, who played the drums, the group's excitable leader, who wouldn't really think things through before diving headfirst into a situation, Eddie, the neurotic and oblivious son of the richest man in town, Tamika, a loudmouth, no-nonsense girl who's not afraid to bust some heads, Philly Phil, another take on the absent-minded professor trope, Madison, who's all heart, no brains, and Kim and Cam, a set of twins who couldn't be any more different. Kim is all about fashion, trends, and whatever's cool this week, while Cam is more practical, pragmatic, and down-to-earth. This group would be led by their teacher, Sonny Bridges, who used to be a world-famous musician, but then retired to escape the public eye, and now works as a music teacher at Wesley Performing Arts. And contrary to popular belief, despite the fact that Sonny Bridges is played by Andre Benjamin, he's not the one that's based on Benjamin. That's actually Lil D. Sonny Bridges is based on Sonny Rollins, who was a famous Atlanta musician who decided to retire so he could play his horn under a bridge. See, does the name Sonny Bridges make a lot more sense now? The writing of the show came pretty naturally to the crew. They wanted the jokes to be funny, the kids to act like real kids, and for the lessons they taught to be subtle, but effective. It wouldn't be like the Weird Al show where they're bashing you over the head with the lesson every 5 seconds. Instead, they would be cleverly woven into the storyline so, without the lesson, the episode would feel incomplete. Granted, not every episode of Class of 3000 would teach a lesson, and it seems like they kind of phased that out as time went on. But still, for when they were actively trying to have these lessons as a main part of the show, They took a rather unique and honestly underappreciated style of teaching, so good on you guys. I wish more people would follow in your footsteps. Music also came naturally when it came to Class of 3000, considering that Benjamin would be writing all the songs for the show. But what didn't come easy was the animation. The crew wanted to get away from the typical Cartoon Network quote-unquote boxy look, as seen in things like Hi Hi, Puffy Amiyumi, or the later seasons of the Powerpuff Girls. Because Lynch knew nothing about the world of animation, he had a lot to learn. When discussing the pilot, Lynch said this: "I think my worst one was when the cut came back. I looked at it and said, okay, I have some rewrites. They said, you get some retakes. I thought retakes meant whole scenes, but it was only moments or close-ups. That was an education right there. Because in live action, I rewrite all the way through post-production. I change everything all the time." The transition from live action to animation would be rough on Lynch, but that's not to say that it didn't have any rewards. They had a very talented crew working behind the scenes. They had folks like Joe Horn from Pee-wee's Playhouse, or Valerio Ventura and David Coleman, who worked on the Polar Express and Open Season. Little by little, the signature Class of 3000 look was finally refined. That's all fine and good for the regular episodes, but what about the music videos that would accompany each of the songs? For those, they would have guest artists like Kyle Baker, Peter Chung, and John Should Be Behind Bars' Chris Felucci. Much like the Simpsons couch gags of today, whenever Class of 3000 had a guest artist, they were given free reign. Whatever they wanted went into the show, as long as it was appropriate. Looking at you, John. This was only the beginning. See, if Class of 3000 had made it past the second season, they had much bigger plans for guests. Not only would they have guest animators for the music videos, but they would also bring in music-themed actors or performers to be a guest star on the show. Folks like Gwen Stefani or Big Boy, but sadly this never came to be. We'll talk about why in just a little bit. For those of you who saw the Fat Albert video we posted a couple weeks ago, you'll remember that I said that during the production of the film, there started to become a mission statement of sorts, one that might not have been there when they started production, but it sure was when they finished, and Class of 3000 had the same thing. Only this time, it wasn't about bringing back the importance of family and friendly togetherness. It was about the importance of music. The show was being developed at a time where music programs were getting cut from public schools all around the country, which I guess hasn't really changed, but still. The crew was hoping that when kids saw the show, the kids who watched the show would be inspired and pick up an instrument and find a new passion. And I can tell you firsthand that it totally worked on me. That's how I started playing the drums. It's all thanks to Lil D. Class of 3000 debuted to a very successful 1-hour premiere. The show continued to do decently well as the first season went on, even being nominated for an Emmy, but then when season 2 came around, the road started to get bumpier and bumpier. Ratings started to drop, and the show was getting more and more expensive. Not only that, but Benjamin was frequently late when it came to turning in the music for the show. Now, to be fair, this was a problem that started early on. In fact, if you look at the soundtrack for season 1, you can find some scratch vocals that were left over because, frankly, they didn't have enough time to cut them out. This is most prevalent in We Want Your Soul. Here, Lil D's parts are played by Benjamin because they didn't have enough time to get the real actress for Lil D, so the scratch track had to remain. Although I'm not really complaining because, honestly, it's kind of an improvement. And then to add insult to injury, Cartoon Network kept changing the time slot for Class of 3000 again and again and again, all with little to no promotion, might I add. So yes, in short, Class of 3000, while struggling with its own problems, got the Dave the Barbarian treatment and received little to no support from the network that once considered it a surefire hit. And I think I know why. This was the last Cartoon Network show that Mike Lazo greenlit before he became the head of Adult Swim. And the executive shakeup that transpired because of it resulted in some people that didn't really like Class of 3000 to get in power. And therefore, the show had to go. Lazo himself said that if he was still in his old position, he would have fought hard to keep Class of 3000 on the air, even pressing through the high costs, low ratings, and delays. But alas, the people who were running Cartoon Network now didn't see it the same way, so then the show faded into obscurity. That is, until a man named Timothy McGee entered the scene, and he sued Cartoon Network because he claimed that he was the one who came up with Class of 3000 all the way back in the 90s. His version of the show would be called The Music Factory of the 90s, and while it admittedly contained some characters that were kind of similar to the Class of 3000 gang, there wasn't enough evidence for the suit to go anywhere, and it was ultimately thrown out. There's an urban legend going around that McGee's lawsuit is the reason that Class of 3000 got canned, but in case you couldn't tell from this timeline, yeah, Class of 3000 was already over by the time he did this, and even then, the suit got thrown out, so it shouldn't have had much of an impact at all. But this still wasn't the end of Class of 3000. While the show may have been cancelled, the spirit would live on, specifically in the form of a stage play. This is Class of 3000 Live, and I can't really talk all that much about it because no footage exists. All we got are some pictures and some audience reactions. All the information I have comes from some brief articles written by some newspapers in Atlanta. From the sounds of it, this was a retelling of Home, with some songs from the show, as well as some brand new ones written by Benjamin himself. And while Benjamin was directly involved with the show, he didn't play Sonny. From the sounds of it, the show got a really strong reception, and maybe it's just me being the Class of 3000 fan that I am, but I want to see this thing happen again. If anybody out there owns a theater, whether it be a big-time city one or a small rinky-dink local one, if you're gonna put this thing on, let me know so I can go see it. After Class of 3000 Live wrapped up, that was kind of it for the show. There was only a soundtrack for Season 1, physical media didn't exist in the country of origin, the United States, and to make matters worse, while most of the episodes were uploaded onto iTunes, the last 5 episodes of Season 2 were lost until around 2019. These episodes were The Cure, You Ain't Seen Nuttin' Yeti, Vote Sonny, Cam Inc., and Two to Tango. Thankfully, they've all been found now and you can illegally watch them at your own discretion. But then that begs the question, since we've now found all the episodes of Class of 3000, and since we live in the age where everything with a letter in its title gets rebooted, does Class of 3000 have a chance of coming back? Well, Sonny did cameo in OKKO twice. But if you want a real substantial reboot, don't hold your breath. It's an obscure show from Cartoon Network's past, so it's not likely. But with that being said, Andre Benjamin has expressed interest in bringing the show back. According to him, there's room to bring the show back. Cartoon Network owns the property. It'd be up to them to bring it back in some kind of way. And then speaking about the fans, my main goal in my show is to have them grow up and be like 25 or 30 years old and to think back, man, do you remember when Class of 3000 was on? Well, don't worry, man. That age has finally come. Have you seen social media and YouTube as of late? So unless it does come back, that ends the tale of Class of 3000, a show that could have been one of Cartoon Network's biggest hits, and it had all the production marks to back that up, but for a variety of reasons, it just couldn't stick the landing after a bit of time. So now I hope you're going to be walking away with a little bit more knowledge of Class of 3000. Well folks, thanks for watching the video. What'd you guys think? What did you learn about Class of 3000? What's your favorite episode and who's your favorite character? Comment below and let me know because I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say. Personally, my favorite episode is Love is in the Hairnet, and my favorite characters are Sonny and Kim. And now it's time to thank our wonderful Patreon people, starting with our Masters of Fate, Chan 11, Kev Messick, Manny Paredes, MD the Dude, Ryan Williams, Timey, and Woody Woo. And now, our executive producers, Aaron Vasquez, Albert Robinson, Blackjack, Edward Haas, H.R. Hoffman, I Am Vove, Indiscreet One, Ravioli Supremo, Unkale, and who else but Zane. If you too would like your name read at the end of every Media Mementos video, then why not donate to the Patreon? There's a link in the description below for you to check out. And there's also a link to the Media Mementos Discord server, so why not pop in and say hi? Alright folks, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time!